Open your mind to receive. By Catherine Ponder. Chapter 3. You may have thought of the gift of prophecy as a special spiritual or psychic gift bestowed upon only a few, such as the prophets of the Bible, who used their gift of prophecy with amazing results. Yet you have this gift of prophecy too, which you can use in simple ways to help you open your mind to receive increased good in every phase of your life. What is your gift of prophecy? How can you put it to work? Part 1. Prophecy through the spoken word. The word prophecy means a declaration of something to come. It also means a prediction of the future under divine guidance or simply an intuitive prediction. You are constantly using your gift of prophecy through the predictions, declarations, words, and decrees that you speak forth about yourself and others. Your spoken words are your gift of prophecy. If you are not satisfied with your life, you can begin using your gift of prophecy to improve it. As you change your words, you change your world. As you improve your words, you improve your world. As you transform your words, you transform your world. You can invoke your gift of prophecy through the use of your words in two ways. First, through your casual utterances, your everyday words. Second, through your deliberate words and predictions, such as verbal affirmations. Prophecy through casual utterances. Your casual words are very powerful, because you generally speak them forth in a relaxed state of mind, in which there is no mental block to their manifestation. Therefore, those words often produce results for you quickly. In the mid-1960s, I watched my casual words produce some startling results. I was moving out of that apartment my son and I occupied before he went into the military. Even though I employed a professional to make the actual move, I felt I needed extra help getting ready for it. This was the first time in years my son had not been with me in the midst of a move. I missed having his help. I found myself thinking, if only Richard were here, this move would be so much easier. He would know what to do about many things. Then I reminded myself that I must release him to his new life. Nevertheless, I often still found myself thinking, if only Richard were here. One day in the midst of my moving preparations, some neighborhood children appeared and asked if they could help me. It was a hot summer day and they were restless and bored with their usual activities. After receiving permission from their parents, I put them to work. Everything went well for several hours, and I was saying to myself, my decree has worked, even though someone else's children have appeared to help me prepare for this move. Then there was a knock at the door. When I answered it, I saw a tall young man about the height of my son standing there. He said, "I understand you are moving, my little brothers and sisters are already here helping you, and I came to help, also." With delight I replied, "Fine, and what is your name?" "My name is Richard." My gift of prophecy had worked. I had been saying for days, if only Richard were here, and suddenly a Richard appeared. He did all the things my son would have done. Sometimes our casual words do not manifest results so quickly, but such decrees, persistently spoken, do manifest results for us in due time. How casual words brought about a marriage. As a child, I often visited the home of an old maid aunt, who provided a place to live for her elderly parents and several unmarried brothers and sisters. Whenever this maiden aunt got provoked with members of the family, she always made the same threat. "One of these days I am going to Florida and getting married." Her words became a standing joke in the family. Her prophecy seemed incredible, even impossible, and nobody paid any attention to it. As the years passed, her brothers and sisters married and moved out of the family home. Finally, both of her parents passed on within a short time of each other, and she sold the family home and went to Florida to live and to work. By this time she was in her late 40s. A year later my family received a postcard from her that read, "Last week Mr. Brown and I were married in Gainesville." You can imagine the reaction in her family back home. Nobody had ever heard of Mr. Brown, though they discovered he was a very nice widower whom she had met in connection with her work. Now, after many years of marriage, they are still busy living happily ever after. Your words are your gift of prophecy. Sometimes your most casual words, repeatedly spoken, are your greatest gift of prophecy. That aunt proved it. How casual words brought a gift of orchids. One of the greatest ways you can help other people is to speak forth casual words predicting good on their behalf. Often you can mentally accept good for others that they have not yet been able to mentally accept for themselves. Once when I lectured at a convention, a friend gave me a beautiful orchid to wear. The convention was to continue for several days after I had spoken. A special friend of mine was also there, scheduled to speak a couple of days after I left. Since the orchid would still be fresh at the time she spoke, I thought, I must give my friend this orchid to wear. But in the rush of activities, I never got the orchid to her, even though I had given it to her mentally. Later in correspondence between us I said to her, I mentally gave you my orchid although I never got it to you in person. I prophesied an orchid for you, so someone else will give you an orchid very soon. She wrote back, it's a beautiful idea but nobody ever gives me orchids. About 2 months later I received a happy letter from her in which she said, you can prophesy for me any time you want to. I have been given 4 orchids since you decreed it. Relatives and friends have given me orchids on every special occasion since then, my birthday, Easter, etc. Prophecy through deliberate words. Deliberate affirmations, formally spoken forth, are the second way of using your gift of prophecy. In this age of enlightenment that is now dawning, any person who does not know the power of the word is behind the times. Large numbers of people are reading the countless self-help books that are now on the market. Yet many of those readers are not getting the practical results they expect. Often they complain that self-help theories do not work for them. Most people who read self-help books have learned enough to change the course of their lives, if only they would use what they have learned. One way for them to do that is to use their gift of prophecy. A single bold statement declaring how you want your life to be is worth more than dozens of books read or lectures attended. Spoken words describing the good you want will help you claim it and quickly release it into your own life. Ye have not, because ye ask not. James 4:2 ASV. How Winston Churchill used words to win. One of the well-known stories concerning British Prime Minister Winston Churchill is about how he turned the tide of the war during the Battle of Britain in World War II. Everyone in England was prophesying defeat. Many felt they had already lost the war. Mr. Churchill went on radio and declared, we shall win by land. We shall win by sea. We shall win. He talked like a winner and, in the opinion of many historians, his words were the turning point in the war. How an independent trucker succeeded through words. Many years ago, when I heard about an independent trucker who was very successful, I began to think about how our words can create conditions. Even when business was hard to find, his 2 trucks were always on the road working. When someone asked the secret of his success, he spoke of the time when he had hit rock bottom financially. He could not find business, the payments on his truck were overdue, and he had no cash. Sitting in a lonely hotel far from home, he opened his Bible to the 37th chapter of Ezekiel. There he read of the prophet's vision about the dry bones when Jehovah told Ezekiel to prophesy to those dry bones, and when he did, the dry bones rose up and came to life as people. The trucker decided there was a powerful success formula in that old Bible story. He went out to his truck, placed his hand on its dusty fender, and prophesied. Listen, I prophesy that you will be working again tomorrow. What's more, it will be a good paying load. He immediately felt better, went back to his hotel, and retired for the night. At 5 o'clock the next morning, his telephone rang and a voice said, I have a load of butter that's got to get to Los Angeles in a hurry. Can you take it? Of course he could, and he did. In commenting later on the power of prophesying success, this man said, I have been in tight places since then, but I always knew I could get out. I have prophesied that a soft load would not spoil until I could get ice, and it came through all right. I have prophesied that a bad road over which I was driving my truck would get better, and it did. I even prophesied that I would have a second truck someday, and now I have. You can use your simple but powerful gift of prophecy through your spoken words to produce great good in your own life and in the lives of others. How words healed her. A young woman from Kentucky moved to Colorado with her family because one of her parents was suffering from a disease the Colorado climate was supposed to help. After moving, she began attending an inspirational class that met in a friend's parlor. The teacher of this class had been a personal student of the famous teacher Emma Curtis Hopkins, in Chicago. This teacher in Colorado often talked to those gathered about the omnipresence of God and God's goodness and how they could claim it through spoken words. At those weekly meetings, this teacher gave the students specific affirmations on the omnipresence of God. She asked them to deliberately speak forth those words at home and during the day as they worked. The young woman from Kentucky had a traditional religious background, and such theory about words was new to her. Yet she decided to try it because she had a painful throat condition for which doctors had been unable to find a remedy. She was in pain most of the time and unable to eat normally. One day in class, as the teacher was affirming omnipresence for those in attendance, the student from Kentucky suddenly realized she had just been healed. She could swallow without pain, and she knew she was all right. That night, as her doubting family looked on, she ate a normal meal for the first time in months. When she proudly told her teacher of her healing at the next meeting, her teacher replied matter-of-factly, "Of course you've been healed." Because the teacher knew the power of words, such healings were a common occurrence in her work. This young woman who was healed through affirmations continued using her gift of prophecy to help others. Her name was Nona Brooks, and she became the founder of the Divine Science movement in Denver. She served as president of its college and minister of its mother church, where she worked for many years. To those who know the result-getting power of words, she has become a legend. How to prophesy with words. You cut out your destiny with your words. Here is a simple method for developing your gift of prophecy. Set aside a definite time every day and speak forth bold words of good, describing your life as you want it to be. If you persistently speak forth such words, even if you do not believe what they mean at first, you will find that your words have power. As you continue to speak them forth every day, your words will work miracles in your life, sometimes slowly, sometimes suddenly. When you speak with constructive words every day, you are not thinking to make God give you anything. You are only claiming that which is already your heritage, increased health, wealth, and happiness. I invite you to prophesy the good for yourself and others often, both casually and deliberately. Do not strain or become tense in your words, but declare them in peace, joy, and confidence. Then release your prophetic words to go forth into the ethers to do their perfect work for you and others. You may wish to begin right now by prophesying, "As I change my words, I change my world. As I improve my words, I improve my world. As I transform my words, I transform my world. I prophesy the good now for myself and for all humanity." Part 2. Prophecy through pictures. Prophecy, a declaration of something to come, does not necessarily require words. How can you have a prophecy without words? In another simple way, through the imagination, as you deliberately picture the good you want to bring into your life. If you do not deliberately picture what you want in a constructive tray, roll unconsciously picture what you do not want in a destructive way. You are always picturing something because it is the function of the mind to picture. A wise way to prophesy through pictures is by asking for guidance about your future. Through the strong hunches and deep-seated desires that well up within you, you will intuitively be shown what to picture. Then boldly get busy doing so. Dr. Raymond Barker has explained it in his book, The Science of Successful Living. God wants you to be what you want to be. In your quiet thinking, select your future, accept it as normal for you, and then expect it to happen. Give thanks that the ways and means to bring it to pass are already in action. You must mentally accept in the present what you actually want to happen in the future. Picturing it brings that acceptance much quicker. Why? Because the picturing power of the mind turns your thinking from "I cannot have this" or "it will never happen to me" to hope and belief, and finally to the mental acceptance that it can happen to me and it will happen to me. Generalities do not produce results because they lack substance and power. Vague hopes and indefinite goals are not convincing to the mind and do not produce constructive results, whereas a clear-cut picture of the good you want activates people, places, and events to cooperate with your pictured desires. You can hasten your good through picturing it. How picturing an insurance company succeeds through. Knowing this, the president of an insurance company hastened the success of his company through picturing it. When he formed his company, he made a success map on which he charted out the desired sales for his company over a 10-year period. For each year during those 10 years, he listed on his chart the income he wished his company to make. At the time he showed me his success map, the company's income was 1 year ahead of that pictured on his chart, although this was in the midst of a severe recession, when no one was supposed to be prospering. How picturing brought $500. Instead of fighting problems, you can picture your way out of them. A woman desperately needed $500 with which to meet certain financial obligations that were coming due. On the wall of her family room, she placed a success map she made using a piece of bright poster board. As she daily looked at several pictures of financial goals on her success map and gave thanks for quick results, her method worked. Within 10 days, 3 of the pictured goals came to pass and she removed those pictures and added new ones. One of her goals had been for $500 in cash. Only a week after placing that amount on the success map, a man she had not seen in 15 years knocked at her door and presented her with a check for exactly $500. He explained that it represented some old, cancelled insurance policies. Through a change in company rules, her formerly cancelled endowment plan had been converted to a 20-year term insurance plan. The check he handed her was in payment. How Turing brought her scrapbook husband. Picture your good and bring it through, rather than trying to force it through or even reason it through. All the forces of heaven and earth will get busy cooperating with your pictures and will help bring them to pass. Many people have pictured vacations, better jobs, increased incomes, the healing of health problems, the sale of homes and businesses, the loss of weight, freedom from the desire to smoke or drink. Picturing can free you from all kinds of problems, both large and small. A young woman learned of the power of pictures and made a marriage scrapbook. The pictures in her scrapbook included those of the man of her dreams, an engagement ring, wedding clothes, many showers and parties, a beautiful wedding, and a happy marriage. Her method worked. She met her dream man and was soon wearing his engagement ring. Later her numerous showers and parties were the talk of the town, as was her trousseau. Her wedding was as beautiful as the one she pictured. A few years ago, she proudly introduced me to her scrapbook husband in Atlanta, Georgia, where they are busy living happily ever after. How happiness, contentment, and prosperity came to a businessman. A businessman from Ohio recently wrote, "Having been a tool and machine designer most of my life and dealing in mathematics and cold facts, there is nothing of much use to me if it does not work. I have found and proven to myself that having unshakable faith, a definite purpose or desire, and the willingness to abide with these principles, plus the faith that God will work all things out for your good, is just as sound a formula as any mathematical, chemical, or physical law. We do not stop to figure out why 2 + 2 = 4 every time we want to work a mathematical problem. We accept it with unmistakable faith. We also have to accept the laws of life the same way." I was first introduced to this philosophy by the engineer who was in Dr. Ponder's first prosperity class in Alabama in 1958. He went from a $1 million construction job in Alabama to a $15 million construction job in Ohio as a result of that prosperity class. He is the man who designed the Wheel of Fortune, about which she writes in several of her books, including Open Your Mind to Prosperity, The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity, and The Millionaires of Genesis. Tragic experiences had brought me to my knees mentally, physically, and financially, when I was introduced to prosperous thinking by this man. He suggested I make a wheel of fortune picturing the good I wished to experience in my life. He explained picturing as prayer in pictures, an act of faith. I followed his advice. The results. I am now more happy, content, independent, and prosperous than at any time in my life. Many things began to happen right out of the blue that I didn't believe were possible. Positions opened up at just the right time, money began to flow my way, people became more helpful, and even parking spaces opened up at the right time. Picturing works. Begin to prophesy the good through picturing it. As you do so, declare often, "I now move forward into my expanded good. Divinely directed and lavishly prospered. All things conform to the right thing for me now, quickly and in peace."